How's it going, everyone? Austin Honecker here. I just wanted to come on here for a while and give him a review for All Elite Wrestling's AEW Dark Elevation from tonight, which is June 21st, 2021. I gotta say, it was awesome from start to finish. For the matches, match one, it was FTR, which are Dax Harwood and Cash Wheeler, versus Jarrell Nelson and Royce Isaacs. That was a great match, but the ending to it, FTR went over because Dax Harwood made Jarrell Nelson tap out to the reverse figure four leg lock. Match two, it was Nyla Rose versus Delmi Exo. That was a squash match, but the ending to it, Nyla Rose went over with the Beast Bomb. But now before the match, as Justin Roberts was doing the ring introduction for Nyla Rose, Vicky Guerrero came out and made Justin Roberts get out of the ring, and Vicky Guerrero done the ring introduction for Nyla Rose. That was cool. And after the match, as Nyla Rose and Vicky Guerrero were celebrating Nyla Rose's victory, Vicky Guerrero put a shirt of Nyla Rose on top of Delmi Exo, which that was cool. Match three, it was The Acclaimed, which are Max Caster and Anthony Bowens, versus Tamilian Vanish and Baron Black. That was a great match, but the ending to it, The Acclaimed went over cause Max Caster pinned Tamilian Vanish with the mic drop. Now, before the match, after Baron Black and Tamilian Vanish came out, The Acclaimed came out, and Max Caster done a rap on Baron Black and Tamilian Vanish, and while Max Caster was rapping on Tamilian Vanish and Baron Black got pissed off and tried to attack Max Caster, but Anthony Bowens knocked Baron Black out with the boombox, and after Max Caster done his rap, Max Caster and Anthony Bowens got in the ring. Anthony Bowens got on the microphone and said AEW, and Tamilian Vanish tried to attack Anthony Bowens, but Anthony Bowens attacked Tamilian Vanish with a forearm strike to the head, knocking him out for the time being. Anthony Bowens called Tamilian Vanish a dumbass, and then Anthony Bowens said The Acclaimed have arrived, which that was cool. Match four, it was the Varsity Blondes, which are Brian Pillman Jr. and Griff Garrison, versus Bums Are Us, which are Milo Beasley and Ray Bees. That was a great match, but the ending to it, the Varsity Blondes went over cause Brian Pillman Jr. pinned Milo Beasley with a bear hug dropkick combination from Griff Garrison and Brian Pillman Jr. Now, before the match, Bums R Us attacked the Varsity Blondes and beat the shit out of them before the match started, which that was cool. Match five, it was Chris Statlander versus Renee Michelle. That was a great match, but the ending to it, Chris Statlander went over with the Big Bang Theory. Match six, it was Matt Hardy versus Jorah Joel. That was a great match, but the ending to it, Matt Hardy went over with the Twist of Fate. Well, after the match, the rest of the Hardy family office, which are Mark Quinn, Isaiah Cassidy, The Blade, The Bunny, and Helico, and Jack Evans came in the ring. The Blade gave Matt Hardy a steel chair. Matt Hardy sat on the steel chair and had a microphone and cut a promo, and Matt Hardy was pretty much saying that, telling Jorah Joel that he had a lot of potential to be an AEW superstar, and talked about and pretty much brought up about how he grew up in India and how he's wanting to live his dream, and everything, and also talked about how his paperwork was going to run out and everything, and he was going to have to go back to India and not live his dream as an AEW superstar. And Matt Hardy also was talking about offering Jora Joel a spot in the Hardy family office, to carry the Hardy family office's bags and shine their shoes, iron their clothes, everything like that, and everything. And Matt Hardy was pretty much kept insulting Jora Joel and everything. And while Jora Joel was looking on, the Hardy family office left the ring, which that was cool. And that was after the match, by the way, but it was cool. Match 7, it was The Pinnacle, which are Wardlow and Shawn Spears versus Ryzen and Cal Hero. That was a great match, but the ending to it, The Pinnacle went over because Wardlow knocked Ryzen out with the Mr. Mayhem. Match 8, it was Powerhouse Hobbs versus Darian Bingston. That was a squash match, but the ending to it, Powerhouse Hobbs went over with the Town Business. But after the match, Powerhouse Hobbs was going to beat the shit out of Darian Bingston, but instead threw him on the other side and everything. And Powerhouse Hobbs left and everything, which that was cool. That was match 8, by the way. Match 9, it was Jade Cargill versus Robin Renegade. That was a squash match, but the ending to it, Jade Cargill went over with the Jaded. But before the match, after Robin Renegade was already out, and Jade Cargill and Mark Sterling came out, and Mark Sterling got a microphone and cut a promo talking about how him and Jade Cargill made a deal with the Black News Channel and everything, and Jade Cargill ended her quote saying that I'm that bitch and everything, which that was cool. Match 10, it was Pena El Cerro Miedo and Eddie Kingston versus Fuego del Sol and Vari Morales. That was a great match, but the ending to it, Pena El Cerro Miedo and Eddie Kingston went over because Pena El Cerro Miedo pinned Fuego del Sol with the arm breaker. Match 11, it was Jungle Boy versus Cesar Bononi. That was a great match, but the ending to it, Jungle Boy went over with the clothesline to the back of the head. And that was match 11, by the way. And match 12, which was the main event, it was Matt Sydal versus Jack Evans. That was a great match, but the ending to it, Matt Sydal went over with the lightning spiral. Now, besides the matches, Tony Schiavone interviewed Matt Sydal, and Tony Schiavone was pretty much asking Matt Sydal about how, but besides the matches, Tony Schiavone interviewed Matt Sydal, and Tony Schiavone was pretty much asking Matt Sydal about the Hybrid 2, which are Angelico and Jack Evans' attack last week on AEW Dark Elevation on his brother Mike Sydal. Well, Matt Sydal was talking about how the Hybrid 2 have been a thorn on his side, and he could see right through him and can see right through Matt Hardy and everything, and also talked about how he was going to beat the shit out of Jack Evans tonight, and how him and his brother Mike Sydal worked together and everything, which that was cool. Taz and Powerhouse Hobbs cut a promo, and Taz was talking about how Hangman Page better watch his ass and everything, and introduced Powerhouse Hobbs, and Powerhouse Hobbs was talking shit about Hangman Page, saying that he was that he was that he was going to beat the shit out of Hangman Page this Saturday and everything, which that was cool. And Jorah Joel cut a promo talking about how he idolized Matt Hardy growing up, and how it was a dream come true to be able to wrestle Matt Hardy and everything. And Jorah Joel also talked about how after facing Matt Hardy, that it wasn't what he thought it was, because Matt Hardy isn't the same person he once idolized. And Jorah Joel also talked about how he came to the United States of America to live his dream as an AEW superstar, and to work for Tony Khan and everything. And Jorah Joel was talking about how he got offered to be a part of the Hardy family office, and doing, pretty much being their wing boy or some shit. And Jorah Joel was talking about how he don't want to do that. He wants to work in AEW and everything, but he's thinking about taking the risk and everything, which that was cool. Now, besides all that, Tony Schiavone and Paul White done commentary throughout the whole show. They done awesome as usual. And the referees for the event were Frank Gastineau, Mike Posey, Paul Turner, Bryce Remsburg, and Aubrey Edwards. Okay. Paul Turner refereed the match between FTR versus Jarrell Nelson and Royce Isaacs. Mike Posey refereed the match between Nyla Rose versus Delmi Exo. Aubrey Edwards refereed the match between The Acclaimed versus Baron Black and Tamilian Vanish. Frank Gastineau refereed the match between the Varsity Blondes versus Bums R Us. Bryce Remsburg refereed the match between Chris Statlander versus Renee Michelle. Aubrey Edwards refereed the match between Matt Hardy versus Jorah Joel. Frank Gastineau refereed the match between Wardlow and Shawn Spears versus Ryzen and Cal Hero. Paul Turner refereed the match between Powerhouse Hobbs versus Darian Bingston. Mike Posey refereed the match between Jade Cargill versus Robin Renegade. Bryce Remsburg refereed the match between Pena El Cerro Miedo and Eddie Kingston versus Fuego del Sol and Vari Morales. Aubrey Edwards refereed the match between Jungle Boy versus Cesar Bononi, and Aubrey Edwards refereed the match between Matt Sydal versus Jack Evans. All the referees done awesome as usual. Now anyway, I just wanted to come on here for a while and give them a review for All Elite Wrestling's AEW Dark Elevation. Like I said, it was awesome from start to finish. And with that being said, my name is Austin Honecker, and I will catch your ass down the road.